Now, a teenage girl has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after two teachers and a teenage student were stabbed at a school in Wales.
Yes, a Man Valley school was put into lockdown shortly after 11 a.m. yesterday after 3 people were injured. Emergency services responded, including Wales Air Ambulance. Police say the injuries are not life-threatening. Forensic teams have been on site and a knife has been recovered and the suspect remains in custody. Well, Superintendent Ross Evans spoke to the media.
I'm aware that there is footage circulating on social media and I would ask that this is kindly removed to preserve the integrity of the ongoing investigation and to avoid further distress to those involved. This was a very distressing incident and our thoughts are with the victims.
Well, joining us now is former police officer Oliver Laurence. Good to see you this morning, Oliver. I mean, this is a truly shocking story, isn't it?
It certainly is, Emily. You know, we see violence on our streets across the country, and when we see it inside our schools, it's something that really hits home, and it's truly troubling. But I think that we've got to sort of celebrate the bravery of the teachers getting involved in this matter and disarming this alleged offender. You know, 3 people with terrible injuries, but thankfully non-life-threatening, and hopefully now the school will start to come back together, start to understand what's occurred. Obviously, the police will run a very complex investigation like we would expect them to, but a highly distressing situation, Ellie, for the community of South Wales.
Yeah, in terms of the investigation, Oliver, I mean, presumably comparatively straightforward in a situation where there's going to be a lot of witnesses.
Yeah, you know, the police will always be mindful not to call anything simplistic. It's still quite complex in terms of gathering witness statements very, very quickly. Obviously, a flick knife was recovered at the scene, which is quite distressing to hear that obviously a young person is allegedly in possession of such a weapon. But, you know, the police will move very, very quickly. Obviously, there'll also be support networks in place because obviously this is quite a distressing incident inside a school. And obviously the community will be very, very worried. Obviously an isolated incident, but still people need support getting through this to make sure that they recover not only physically, but also emotionally.
Oliver, how rare is this sort of incident? Because we really don't hear about this sort of thing happening very often. And how do we prevent it from happening again?
Thankfully, we don't hear very often of incidents inside our schools. I think tragically we hear a lot about it out in the public. We've seen a lot of young people affected by knife crime, particularly in central London over the last couple of years. And education is the key, really, to sort of giving kids and young people an insight as to sort of the ramifications of their actions. These actions change lives forever. And not only the victims, but the offenders, their families. And these are young people that really don't understand the contextual piece around sort of these ramifications, the fact they have such a huge impact, not only on their victims, but themselves and their families. It's something that police and the communities need to work hard on. You know, police and crime commissioners are coming up for re-election next week, and something they focus on as part of their sort of anti-social behaviour models and fundings going forward.
You don't want to. The problem is you look at something like this and you think, heck, I really hope we don't end up going the way of America with airport-style security needed at schools and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting one, Steve. You know, we do often associate school violence with the States. You know, I think we've all become slightly tragically quite numb to when we hear of mass incidents in the US because they seem to appear and happen quite regularly. You know, we are very thankful here in the UK that it doesn't happen regularly. And I suppose that the key to that is, I suppose, you know, the education, the environment our kids are brought up in. You know, it is hard to get hold of weapons in society, but thankfully we don't see too many of these. And hopefully this is an isolated incident, but still has rocked a South Wales community who'll be waking up this morning wondering how this all transpired.
Absolutely, truly shocking incident. Oliver Laurence, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.